Welcome to Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit. We are presenting another installment of our personal protection and safety tips. This is a regular feature that we create, produce, and publish. It is our express desire that listeners of this series will learn at least one personal protection and or safety tip that will make them safer. We seek to empower you with information. If you take it upon yourself to peruse all of the videos that we have on our YouTube channel, we are confident that you will learn enough personal safety info to make you a harder target, that you will significantly reduce the odds that you are selected for victimization. There is truly nothing new under the sun with regards to crime. It's pretty much all the same. Every now and then they may update their tasks, or they may update the strategies or the ways that they implement these crimes, but nothing is truly new. Sometimes it's just a new wrinkle, often aided by technology. But keep following this series, and we will continue to give you the very best information that will enable you to be safe. Before I get to our tip for today, please allow me an opportunity to plug our channel here on YouTube. We have a very new feature, personal protection tips, but we are definitely not to YouTube. We've been on YouTube for about 10 years, and on a wide variety of topics. We touch on personal protection, gun rights, and personal safety. We have over 2,000 videos here. So if you like this video or any others, please take a moment to give us a like, consider subscribing to our channel, forward these videos along to your family members and friends, and kindly consider leaving feedback. We can't necessarily respond to you personally, but we will make sure that we take your feedback and that we use it to make better videos in the future. So having said that, let's go ahead and get started with today's tip. It is not only unwise, but it is also extremely unsafe to perform certain functions requested by your employer. High atop of that list is making bank deposits, day or night, of that company's income for the day. If your employer is too cheap to pay for armed security couriers, to use that service to make bank runs, you should insist that he personally risk his own safety for the company's deposits. And I think that this is probably one of the most detestable things that some companies do. They have their employees, and they give them the task of taking that day's receipts to the bank. Maybe sometimes it's when the bank is open, or sometimes when the bank is closed after hours and they want the employee to use the little drop box. Well, see, the very danger in doing that is that the business and the employees that perform that function, they're going to establish a pattern. And bad guys, they're not very bright, but it doesn't take much to watch a business and see how they operate, especially if it's a business that does a lot of cash transactions. And sometimes you may have some managers or some business owners that are cheap, and don't want to pay the extra added expense of having armed external security forces to make deposits of the cash to the bank. So, yeah, they ask their employees to do these things. And yeah, they do realize it puts their employees at risk, but you know, some people just don't care. And so I'd say it is up to you as the employee to be cognizant of what risk you're willing to take for your job. You know, just because someone asks you to do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should do it. I mean, think about everything that's possible. And in producing this tip, I wanted to actually get some real information on crimes of this nature that have occurred so we can drive this point home that, yeah, it's a real risk. I came across one story that happened a short time ago in Decatur, and I'm going to read it to you. Police on Wednesday said they're looking for two men who robbed at gunpoint a woman who was working a night deposit, who was making a night deposit at a Decatur bank on Monday night. Detective Sergeant Chris Copeland said the female employee of Burger King was making the deposit about 10:33 p.m. at PNC Bank at 510 North Main Street when she was confronted by two men who emerged from the cover of nearby bushes. One of the men, 6 foot plus tall, with a mask covering the bottom part of his face, was armed with a handgun and demanded the deposit bag, said Copeland. The employee pulled it closer to herself, but he grabbed it from her while pointing the gun at her. Copeland said the gunman, accompanied by his shorter male accomplice, took off running and fled eastbound along an alley. Copeland said the employee was not hurt physically during the ordeal. The detectives advised employees making deposits not to make them alone or to make careful note of their surroundings when approaching deposit vaults. So, when you look at the information that the detective in this story gave the employee, don't make deposits alone. Also, it says be aware of your surroundings when getting close to the bank. The recommendation I made is if you're just a regular employee, non management, non owner, I suggest that you shouldn't be making these deposits anyway, especially if it's for a major chain that's making a lot of money. A lot of times when a business is doing well, bad guys, well, they want to take the easy route to success, and I use that loosely speaking. They might just hatch an idea to just rob the employees. Not necessarily rob the employees while they're working on the job, but if they can sit back and watch the way you operate and figure out when and what day that you make the deposits at the bank, it might just be much simpler to just rob you at gunpoint. And make no mistake about it, this woman who was delivering the deposits for this fast food restaurant, she was fortunate. She was very fortunate. She could have very easily had been killed for whatever amount that was in her possession. And I thought, to myself personally, I think the company was just being cheap. I mean, what's a life worth? Certainly it's worth more than, a day's deposits at a fast food restaurant. Another thing that I think employees should be careful about is tasks that, working alone. If you are an employee of some type of business in which you are by yourself, working alone, and especially if this business invites members of the public to come in. I believe that also puts you at risk of being attacked and assaulted. And I don't believe that any employee should have to risk their lives as a function of performing their job. This has been another personal protection tip from Legally Armed in Detroit in conjunction with Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit.